LPT explain to children what is going to happen and when. If you have young children, explain what's going to happen up front from as early as possible in their life. Why one of you won't be there that night for bedtime. That mummy will be home late. That granddad and grandma are going home tomorrow. And most importantly, anything involving their playtime, we're going in 5 minutes. This is the last episode. We have to leave the park soon, etc. We do this with our 2-year-old and we almost never have tears or tantrums because she understands what is going to happen and when. It's not perfect, but she doesn't get upset a lot of the time because she knows what coming in. Often is happy with it. Mummy's at work or by grandma. Children are mini adults. How would you feel if when you were doing something you loved someone just turned up and took you away, or people you loved suddenly weren't there with no explanation? You see so many parents just say right we're going and the kid bursts into tears, or they just turn the TV off and wonder why they have a tantrum. Talk and explain and treat children with respect. And before bed, talk about the upcoming next day. I watched a 2-year-old who threw massive tantrums about bedtime and a lot of her anxiety improved when we talked about the activities planned for after sleep. Young kids don't realize that time moves on after they fall asleep and it's scary. Today we had a good time checking the mail and playing with your toy Dino. Now it's time to sleep, and when you wake up we will have breakfast and then call your parents. And we can check the mail again and maybe blow some bubbles. But first we have to go to sleep and we'll do these things in the morning. We noticed our young kids needed a transition time. So we set a timer for 15 minutes and verbally told them what was going to happen once the timer tings. We need to go potty. Put on our shoes and go in mom's car. We're headed to. It set expectations and we rarely had tantrums. We always gave our kids a countdown. Leaving in 30 minutes. 10 minutes. Last 5 minutes is clean up any mess. Toys. Get your shoes on. Say goodbye. Etc. They can anticipate it and all their friends can plan around it. I still do it with my tweens so they can wrap up calls, games, etc. and mean it. Don't let them ask to tack on another 5, 10 minutes. Don't have them get ready to go and then you spend 20 minutes talking to your friends. It's also a great way to gracefully exit an event. This works really well on adults, too. I think people appreciate a heads up about anything. This is excellent parenting. Just throwing it out there, opinions may start forming when they turn 3. I did blood draws for a while and kids were always a nightmare. Screaming, crying. You'd need a second person to hold them still because the parents couldn't stand to help. One day a 6YO comes in and oh boy. Here we go. Except mom was a nurse and had explained in detail what would happen. Tight wrap on your arm. Touch your elbow or hand. Cold wipe. Poke. Sit very still. Pressure. Band-aid. Kid sat better than half of the 50 YO ranchers we got. When I was really young, it was very important to me that I be taken seriously. If rules and decisions had been explained to me, it would have gone a long way. Not to say my approval was needed, but it would have been nice to be aware of the situation. Yes, communication is key. Early warnings are helpful, but not to every kid. For some kids it can increase anxiety and make the situation worse. Also, kids are not mini adults. Aside from their physiology, emotionally, mentally, a different animal altogether. Your advice isn't bad, and it comes from a good place, but it needs a caveat. Every single kid is different. What works for mine might not work for someone else. Take all parenting advice with a grain of salt. This includes my advice as well. In addition, it's probably more or equally important to explain why something is happening. They may not understand the explanation, but it at least shows some respect in the process of making decisions in life and removes the notion that things are just done capriciously. There is some world out there where maybe not fun decisions are made, but there's a reason for it. I am a really big believer that you should speak to children as if they were adults. By this I mean have regular conversations and regular intonations. I think it helps kids gap that adults are just people like them. 2. Laughs in 4-year-old parent. Buckle up, bud. It's respectful. Kids understand respect. Honestly, this can go for tweens and teens too. Sometimes people assume that teens know things because they're almost adults without realizing that if you don't teach them, then they don't know. When I was 15, my dad was diagnosed with brain cancer and he died when I was 16. But the entire time I thought he was going to get better. Even when he entered hospice. No one told me what hospice was, so I thought it was just getting medical treatment at home since he got sick of hospitals. Not a single person prepared me for his death, and it messed me up for a long time. Children are mini adults. The overall LPT is good. But this is just wrong. Children are children. The goal of parenting is to help them become functioning adults. They're mini people, but are in many ways not mini adults. I have a 4-year-old and I absolutely agree. And let them finish the damn episode. How would you feel? I have used this since my son could walk. He is 4 years old now, and I know it's not true, but it feels like this is just giving him warning to come up with a plan to thwart my plan. Lol, at least he is developing problem solving, I guess. 2's easy. 3 is the challenge I've found. Melting face. This is definitely great advice in general. When I worked at an ER as a nurse, I'd always explain to the patient the steps happening behind the scenes, so to speak. I'd rarely get someone who was annoyed, because they at least had a little idea of what stage they were at or what to expect. My son, who is on the spectrum, really taught me this method helps. Rarely would he get upset because, like OP said, he knew what the plan was. This helped me so much as a kid. I used to joke with my mom that I expected an explanation for everything. 'Cause she brought me up with them and no one else was doing it, but it made things so much easier for me and I understood things better. Including why people did things and how things I did affected other people. No. Children are not mini adults. They are growing and developing minds that don't have fully developed concepts of things adults do. Like self-awareness, action and consequence, cause and effect, emotional control, etc. You might have gotten lucky and had a mild-tempered, quiet child. But most people are not so fortunate. This approach doesn't work with kids, especially toddlers that need boundaries enforced. Sometimes the word no is necessary. Calmly explaining something to a raging lunatic 2-year-old isn't going to have any impact. I've seen this be so helpful for my niece even when she was very, very little. In general, giving heads up to someone even an approximate time will do the job is much better than stepping in while ruining their schedule, and cherry on the cake, it doesn't require any effort. Good tip. My daughter has generalized anxiety and ADHD. Transitions are horrible for her. I always give a 15-minute warning and a 5-minute warning beforehand. We're leaving the park in 5 minutes, then 3-minute warning. 1-minute warning. Is there anything you want to do before we go? At the end of this story, we're turning off the lamp to do nap time. Let's get into our car seats so we can go visit Grandma's house. For some reason this just always works. Couldn't agree more. I've had success with this with big things too, such as shots, dentist visits, etc.